Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Now, his district is right next door to Congresswoman Chu's district, neighboring Monterey Park.
And Congressman, we've just been talking about it this morning. Looked at a Pew report that showed that since over the last decade, since Sandy Hook, murders from guns has increased 75%. And in 2020, almost 5 times as many people died from being murdered by a gun than died in the entire Americans who died in the entire Iraq War. The numbers are just staggering, and this epidemic of gun violence keeps rising.
You're absolutely right, and I want to join my colleague Judy Chu in expressing my sadness and condolence. I had the honor of representing Monterey Park for over a decade, and it's just devastating. I know what a tight-knit community it is, and to see a time of celebration within the Asian community turned into a time of memorial is just heartbreaking. But I have the same mixture of emotion I think so many millions of Americans do in seeing this news of being sickened on the one hand and just furious on the other, because it happens over and over and over again, and we just can't seem to get enough done to stop it. And the reality is there are things that we can do to stop it. We don't have to live this way. We can't live this way. The rest of the world doesn't live this way. I've been carrying a bill for years now to try to expose the gun industry the same liability as every other industry in America. They shouldn't be immune from the harm the industry causes, and we shouldn't have weapons of war on our streets or extended ammunition clips as may have been used here. We could do something about this, and I think it's the gutlessness of some of the people I serve with that we haven't.
So let me just say this too, Congressman. We always hear the same thing after these shootings. Oh, you can't talk about the murders now. You can't talk about all these people being murdered right now. One shooting after another shooting after another shooting. One murder after another murder. It's never the right time to talk about these murders. That would be like saying on September 12th, 2001, oh, now's not the right time to talk about Islamic terrorism. Now's not the right time to talk about the growing threat to the American homeland. It's just the opposite. This keeps coming. The cause and effect is there for everybody to see. When is it going to be the right time for Congress and the president to do what 90% of Americans want them to do, which is at least pass universal background checks?
Well, that's absolutely right. It's going to be the right time when members of the Congress start to understand that they're going to be thrown out of office if they don't. And that's what we need to have happen. It needs to be the end of a political career if you're not willing to defend your constituents against this senseless violence. You have no business serving in office if you're unwilling to stand up to this industry and protect the people that you represent.
All right, so you were the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee in the last Congress and one of the impeachment managers for President Trump's first impeachment trial. Now you might be barred from the Intel Committee. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries responded to Speaker Kevin McCarthy's comments that he would block both you and Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell from serving on the House Intelligence Committee. In his nomination letter of you both, Jeffries wrote in part this: "It is my understanding that you intend to break with the long-standing House tradition of deference to the Minority Party Intelligence Committee recommendations and deny seats to Ranking Member Schiff and Representative Swalwell. The denial of seats to duly elected members of the House Democratic Caucus runs counter to the serious and sober mission of the Intelligence Committee, at the same time that Republicans have threatened to deny seats on the Intelligence Committee to clearly qualified Democratic members. Serial fraudster George Santos has been placed on 2 standing committees of the House and welcomed into your conference."
So what do you have to say, Congressman, about the double standard?
Well, this is Kevin McCarthy once again catering to the most right-wing elements of his conference and doing the will of the former president as well. He doesn't like the fact that I led the impeachment of Donald Trump for withholding hundreds of millions of dollars in military aid from Ukraine while that nation was at war in order to essentially extort them into helping his political campaign. That's too bad. We're going to continue to hold McCarthy accountable, Trump accountable. And for him to mess with the Intelligence Committee this way, to try to dictate the Democratic representation on the committee, and not just essentially tear down the functioning of that committee, but build up a new committee on the Select Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government. These should be seen as hand in hand, tearing down legitimate committees that are doing important national security work, building up these bogus committees that he's going to seat, the right-wing crazies, and it's just a further destruction of our norms and I think deterioration of our democracy.
So would love to get your take on the fact that more classified documents were discovered at President Joe Biden's Delaware home last week. In a statement on Saturday, the president's personal attorney revealed that FBI agents spent more than 13 hours at the Biden's Wilmington residence on Friday, and their search turned up, quote, 6 items consisting of documents with classification markings. Like the documents previously found, Biden's legal team says the newly discovered files were from his time as vice president, but then his attorney also says the new batch included some documents from Biden's time in the Senate, where he served from 1973 to 2009. A Biden administration official and a separate source familiar with the matter tell NBC News that the latest search was prompted by the White House, not the Department of Justice. It's unclear if the new documents were found in the same location as previously unearthed files, which were discovered in a room adjacent to Joe Biden's garage.
Congressman, since you obviously served on the Intel Committee, you're a perfect person to ask this question. If we searched your home, if we searched your properties, if we searched your cars, if we searched everything, would we find any classified documents there?
No, you wouldn't. And it is a real problem that these documents are somewhere they shouldn't be. I have a deep concern over any time we discover that there are classified information in materials anywhere they shouldn't be. And I am so careful when I leave that SCIF. I'm careful when I go into it. I literally pat myself down to make sure I've gotten rid of all my electronics, and very careful not to take anything out of the SCIF. No, look, I'm glad the president is fully cooperating. That's what he should do. That's what he needs to do. But the fact that there are, additional documents now in a place they shouldn't be, we need the Intelligence Committee to do an assessment, just as I urged with the documents in Mar-a-Lago, and make sure that there hasn't been any compromise of the information.